This show brought to you by Circle of Seven Productions, www.cosproductions.com. Please be sure to subscribe and welcome to our circle.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Readers Entertainment Radio, and I am Patricia W. Fisher here on the last Thursday of January. Can you believe it? I think that we will just call January a practice run, and then we'll start everything in February of all the New Year's resolutions I'd planned to do. And one of those New Year's resolutions for sure was to read more, and one of the books I think you should be reading for sure is by a lovely author named Christine Cuthbert, who has written a book called Mom, I Farted in Church, One Type A Mom's Journey Learning to Laugh and Let Go. And it just came out, and I'm so happy to have Miss Christine on the show today with us. So how are you today, Miss Christine?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So Christine and I both write or have written for Alamo City Moms blog here in San Antonio, and we have our different journeys to motherhood. We're both moms of four, and it's a lot to juggle. And so a lot of people have probably asked you, when did you even have time to write with four kids?
You know, so my background is in journalism. I, went to school for it and then worked for several newspapers, in my 20s, and as I was getting married and starting to have kiddos, decided when I had my oldest to stay home. And then 3.5 years later, ended up having triplets. And my newspaper, who I wrote for beforehand and was an editor at, they came back and said, do you want to start doing a column about just what it's like raising these four little boys and the ins and outs? And I was like, sure. So I kind of veered from that point from like features writing into humor columnist work. And for the last 6 years, whether it was in Chicago writing and now down here in San Antonio, I've always kind of written just true life stories of what it's like living with these little boys and the ebbs and flows and trying to find the positivity through the fury and the madness of it all sometimes. And,
right.
I'd always just had friends over the years say, you've got to write this down more so. Things are fleeting on the internet. So they were like, you need to put this all in one place so that one day when your boys are old and having their own kids, you have something, a memory in a book to hand to them and say, this is what I went through with you guys. And last year, the timing was just right. The triplets started kindergarten this year, and so I had kind of more flexibility to finally, move forward with it and put it into a book.
Was it a collection of your stories, or did you read your story and did that make you say, oh, that's right, and expand on it? Or, how did you decide to set it up initially?
Sure. I was fortunate enough to have a lot of columns that I had written in the past. So it did take some of my previous work and kind of grow with it. We're talking 400, 500 word columns that need to be turned into chapters. So they were a foundation, I'd say, and then it grew from there. And I originally had about 32 chapters done, and I met with a literary agent, and she was just so compelling and was like, as a writer, you need to find an avatar. And this is a person that you write to about everything, and everything you write to should appeal to this person, this avatar reader that you've created. And that was where the theme of the book then came to fruition, of the theme of how do we learn from this? How do we take these experiences we've had and better ourselves and be able to enjoy our experience in motherhood more? Like now that my kids are, 6 and 9, I'm removed enough where I can look back at those toddler years and be like, laugh at them a little more than I could when I was in the throes of it.
Oh, sure. There's plenty of times I would sit there and I just think, yeah, I remember being that tired. I don't know how I even functioned that day. Did I wear pants? I must have.
Yeah.
It's
we
a lot.
laugh because there's entire chunks of the first year of the triplets' life. My husband and I have just, I don't know if purposely or just God blocked them out of our memory because it was so stressful that, the mind just does things to protect the mind. And, I remember being there on days on my hands and knees cleaning up, a Picasso in the nursery with the triplets at nap time, just, turning a new shade of red saying, I will look back one day and laugh. I will look back one day and laugh, and just chanting at myself to get myself through it. And now I'm sitting here looking at the pictures and the stories and cracking up over them, and it's, it's just, I wrote it for my 28-year-old self. I wrote it for that mom who maybe has her first and is a nervous wreck and doesn't know what to do. Maybe she's got two in diapers and one up in the middle of the night, colicky, that's feeding, that is just a stress basket and needs to hear reassuring words that, you will get through this. You can laugh through this. Don't take X, Y, and Z so seriously. And at the end of the day, if they're loved, that's all that matters. Stop worrying about all the exterior things that kind of start to eat away at us and give us mom guilt or make us feel less than. Focus on what's right in front of you, what God wants you focusing on is basically the messaging in the book.
Right. And I think it's important because I remember when we had our first, I thought, okay, I'm going to, be up to date on everything, and I'm going to read all the books she reads, and I'm going to listen to all the music she reads, just not to be controlling, but just to be aware, and I'm going to be able to do all this stuff. And then you have the second one, and then you're just kind of glad that both of them are dressed when you walked out the door, and then yourself as well. And then you have more, and it's this feeling of, I can't believe I chose to do this, some days, and it's okay to feel that way. It truly is okay. I think it's important for books like yours to say, yes, things get hard, and there are times that I did go sit in the bathroom and cry by myself,
right.
And that's normal, and that's
right.
okay.
Right, and I think, as my mom said after she was the first one to read the book in its entirety, and her first comment was, you're giving moms the chance to just be okay, like not be so hard on themselves, to accept themselves for who they are, to say, like you said, it's okay to not be happy and joyful every second of the experience. And it's also okay to say no to some exterior things to allow yourself the grace and levity to enjoy what's right in front of you more. I look back and there's, now that mine are older, I look back and I feel sad that I wasn't fully present in some of those moments. But, I had an older one with learning differences who was starting kinder and first grade, going through a rough time. I had triplets trying to potty train. I mean, getting through every single day was an accomplishment at that point. And when you're in that kind of mode, which so many young moms are, it's kind of hard sometimes to be fully present in it, And so this book really kind of gives people just ideas and tips on little moments and little ways, quality versus quantity, of how to get those little snapshot moments that they will look back and say, yeah, I did enjoy this.
So the title is Mom, I Farted in Church. Why that title?
Well, so, the premise of the book is I am an incredibly type A, control freak type person, just wired that way since birth. And in raising these little boys, I was always, we're a sideshow wherever we go, right? I mean, with 4 kids, every time you walk through the grocery store, oh my God, are they all yours? Oh, I'm going to say a prayer for you. And everyone's eyes are on you, particularly 4 little boys. 3 are clearly the same height. And so over time, I became even more increasingly type A and worried about what people thought and, what people would say at the grocery store if they misbehaved. I was just always on high alert. And I was in church with them one day, and Tommy, one of my triplets, loudly pronounces in front of a whole sanctuary full of people, Mom, I just farted in church. Do you think God heard it? And he had a huge smile on his face, and he was so happy and excited about it. And normally I would have crawled in my skin with embarrassment. And I looked around, and everyone was laughing hysterically. But I just had this aha moment of like, they're not laughing at us. They're laughing with us, because this is a little 4-year-old little boy. He's adorable. It's hilarious. And he's right. God is probably laughing along with us. He's not embarrassed at me. He's laughing at what a beautiful, hilarious little boy I have in front of me. And I should be laughing with him and appreciating it versus feeling embarrassed or shameful that my kid just said this in church. And so that was kind of what triggered this turn of events in my life, to just stop feeling that embarrassment. Stop caring what that judgy lady, in the milk aisle at HEB says about him climbing out of the cart, or what, God knows what they're doing, right? But whatever it may be, it takes one comment from somebody in the store or, anything like that to kind of set you off and make you feel like you're not doing a good job. And I kind of stopped caring about other people's judgments at that point, and I started focusing on what was really important, and that was, are my boys happy, and am I happy and enjoying this with them, versus trying to just instead of just managing them, getting in the process with them and enjoying the ride more with them.
And I think that's important, because a lot of times, we're all so focused on the perfect that kids don't remember the perfect. They remember the imperfect. They remember those crazy impromptu moments, like the first time my son is, and my younger two are excellent burpers. Like, they're fabulous. And so I remember we were sitting here, and it was rainy, and it was the summer, and it had been raining a few days, and everyone's really getting a little nuts. And it's summertime, of course. So, and I ended up having some root beer left over from a birthday party we had. And man, that just ate up the whole afternoon. Everyone just sat there and just had a belching contest. And it's one of those wonderful impromptu moments. If it wasn't everything perfectly planned, it's fine to sit back and let the natural stuff happen. So,
I totally agree. And, I say in the book, anytime you're questioning, if you yelled at them that day and you feel guilty about that, or they had a bowl of Fruit Loops for dinner, which Lord knows it happens. But if you're ever feeling those moments of guilt, like you're not doing enough for them, think to those little forms they fill out at Mother's Day at school, where they write about the things they love about their mom and all the questions they answer about their mom. And right then and there, you'll see they don't even, record all those other things that you're worried about. They're recording, like you said, the root beer afternoon, or for us, it may be just walking into the parking lot in Target and I'm squeezing their hand a little tighter. That's like our little cue to each other that we're making little memories as we squeeze each other's hands. And it's those little moments that they'll remember, versus me going through a big production to do something, special for dinner that night that they didn't even really care about. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think, too, that it's just a lot. I mean, as a mom, you're trying to take care of so many things pulling you in every direction, and there's plenty of dads doing this as well. But it's that feeling of, I have to be everything. And that moment of stepping back going, you know what? I don't. And that's okay. And you really don't want to be everything, because then they'll never leave.
I had, there's a big part of my book, too, that talks about social media, because I think so many moms today, there's a huge mom culture presence online with mom bloggers and writers, and even just people within their friends. I've had moms come to me and say, they felt left out because they weren't part of a play date that was posted online, or, their kid wasn't invited to some other child's birthday party. And I talk a lot about, that tried and true statement of comparison is the thief of joy. So if there's things that are filtering into your life that are sucking your joy out of your process, eliminate them. There's filters on social media for a reason. And, at the end of the day, these are your people. These are, your family is your people and your tribe and your team. And, they should be the focus at the end of the day. I mean, it's great to have external things going on, but never let anything take you from that team, if that makes sense. I had a friend when we moved to San Antonio 2 years ago. We moved down here. We did not know a soul. And I was so nervous about it, because we had been in our community in Chicago for 9 years. We had a million friends, great community. And she had moved to Austin about a year and a half prior to us coming to San Antonio. And her words of advice, I still tell people this to this day. She was like, that first 6 months, you're not going to know anybody. That's okay. Take this as an opportunity to spend this quality time with your family every weekend, every night, because you're never going to get that back, especially at these young ages that they are right now. That uninterrupted quality time. Even if, it feels a little lonely, you have your people, and this is, a gift to you to be able to spend this quality time with them. Right.
Yeah, I think, too, we do also try and shove as much as we can, and it's okay to sit back and have nothing. I actually now there's times I'm like, oh, we don't have anything on the calendar today. Well, hey, how about that?
It's wonderful, right? Those are my favorite days.
Really,
I have to run off to wrestling tonight, and 3 more sports start up in a month, and I'm just like, oh my God, February we have no sports. Like, we can actually play a board game one night, or like go do something together that's not sports practice,
something else. That's right. So
Right.
you've gone from you're talking to a literary agent. You have decided you want to put this together in a book, and then what happened? The process of you coming to, I think I want to write a book. I'm going to write a book. I've done write a book. I've talked to a literary agent, and then what?
So I met with I spoke with a literary agent over the summer, actually summer, and she did a beautiful developmental edit on the book. And then I came back to her with kind of an edited proposal. And bottom line, at the end of the day, the way the publishing world is going right now is you can be the greatest writer in America, but if you don't have a massive social media following and platform to land your book on, they're not interested in you. And she was very frank with me about it and was like, look, we don't even really need writers anymore. Like, if you're a celebrity, we can hire a ghostwriter. Like, unfortunately, that's just the way things have gone. And she's like, but I think it's funny. I think it's relevant. I think it's beautiful. I think you can, come back to me in a year or two and keep building the social media. Or if you want to, you can go self-publish. And my thinking from day one when I set out to do this was never to become an influencer or, some mom expert in the world. That was never my goal. And so I just said, my goal is to put this into a book. And I have, the wherewithal and the connections to do this on my own. And so I ended up self-publishing. And it was the greatest experience imaginable, particularly because as a self-published author, I got to keep complete control over my content. Had I gone through a publishing house, they surely would have changed my title. When my title is one of the things that grabs people the most. They're like, what is this book about farting in church? And they start laughing instantly. So for me, being a type A control freak, having complete control over the process, choosing my photographer, how I wanted the cover to look, choosing my editor, choosing my graphic designer and my formatter was fantastic. And it was calming for me to know that I was controlling and picking the greatest people for all these positions. And then being here in San Antonio for the launch party, we ended up working with several local businesses that sponsored the event. So they got to come and meet with the women who came to the book launch and promote themselves, and in a sense covered, the cost of the launch party and then also the book signings and guest speaking touring I've been doing. So
nice.
People, it's a great era to be if you want to write a book. You can do it on your own and do it where it's financially savvy and have a good outcome from it. It's just been a dream come true the last 12 months for me.
And for anybody wondering, it's like, and it's not one of those moments, and I'm sure you didn't. I mean, I'm sure you sat down and crunched your numbers and everything. But, don't ever think, no matter what, you want to put the best quality product out there you can. But also, yes, you have complete control, but you also have you're responsible for everything. So I think if you're like you were very organized and you know exactly what you're thinking. But for someone who's not quite sure, sometimes the guidance of even just an editor is always a good idea too. So, you're right. There's a beauty of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a professionally trained writer. I mean, that's my college degree is in journalism, and even I would never put anything out without having a professional editor, take care of it, because your own work, you're not a fair judge of it. You've looked at it and read it and written it over and over and over so many times. You need that fresh set of eyes to take a look at it and check it for absolutely everything. So yeah, hands down, you need an editor.
For sure. And it's interesting because I was a nurse. I was a trauma nurse, and I decided I was going to go back to school and get my bachelor's in nursing and associates. And one of the things that I saw at this community college when I was finishing my prereqs was write for the school paper and get credit. And I thought, oh, well, that'll be a great way to bring up my GPA, and that'll be an easy class because I've been writing forever in journals. And I took my stuff in, and she just shredded it. But, and rightly so, but I realized at that moment, I'm like, oh, that is better. And so it is an ego slap, but man, that helped. And so I decided to get a journalism degree. So yeah. But you have to be willing to step back and let someone help you get better, and that's
100%.
sometimes hard for people. Yeah.
And sometimes
So,
finding somebody
yeah.
who knows your voice too. You know, my
Yes.
editor is Taylor Henderson. She was the editor of Alamo City Mom, so she had already been editing my work for a year, over a year at that point. I guess maybe a
Right.
little less than a year. And so she knew my voice. And so when editing my work, she knew how to keep my voice in the writing while cleaning it up at the same time, which is, you got to find somebody who knows exactly what you're trying to come across and not change it too much where it doesn't sound like you.
Right. Right. Yes, and Taylor's wonderful. She's very, very good. And so
Mm-hmm.
now you've got this book out. Are there any plans to write more?
Not nonfiction in this format. I've been toying. My mom does illustrating, and so I've been toying with the idea of taking the triplets and their mayhem and turning it into a children's book with,
Okay.
the concepts of the stories that you learn about with the boys. But I've been, it's been a little burnt out on the mom world. It's a wonderful
Yes.
thing, but I'm a reporter by trade, and so I've been freelancing and going back into more features work. Interviewing and doing, working with some really fascinating people. And my goal for this year is to turn that into a podcast, just a real simple, interviewing one-on-one with people about themselves, their stories, with the underlying of finding humor in life and levity.
Yes. And I like that you bring that up because I think a lot of times when people become parents, and we'll focus on moms for this conversation, but I think no matter where you've started, whether you just graduated high school or you've graduated college, you've got a PhD or an MD or whatever, you really do need to go back and use that part of your brain again because you will. A lot of times people are like, well, I don't want to go back into that field, and that's fine. But I think using that knowledge base is important for us to keep our brains from not turning to jello.
Oh, 100%. And just keeping your skills sharp. I hear from people all the time, and I have friends in these shoes, and I'm quasi in these shoes. I mean, I still freelance, so I keep my toe in the pond. But, you have a lot of moms who stay home when they're in the trenches of motherhood, and then suddenly everyone's in kinder and first grade, and you're like, okay, now what? And so for me, writing, doing a book, now starting a podcast, these are things that, might not be insanely lucrative, but they're keeping my skills fresh. They're keeping my name out there, me connecting with people out there so that if I come to a point where I can be more flexible and go back to work full time, my resume is still moving and I'm still kind of honing the craft because things are turning so audio these days. Podcasting and audiobooks are up more than ever. And so I really feel like that's kind of the way of the future with some of this stuff. And it's exciting to now learn that whole realm. I mean, you're doing a fantastic job of interviewing on air. I'm typically writing down the interview. So it's a whole new world to explore for me.
Yeah, it's definitely. I know the first few episodes were pretty raw that I had,
I'm sure.
And that's it works. You figure it out. You read more. You do your research, do your homework. I think that's one of the big things that a lot of people, and I'm sure you've seen it too. They don't do their homework. Like you see the ones that don't look into who they're interviewing or let's say or who they're being interviewed by even.
Right.
And all that's so essential.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So we were talking a little bit about motherhood, and then we're talking about, keep using your brain. What were some of the ways while you were pregnant and then, of course, in between having your 9-year-old and then your triplets, what were some of the things you may have read or things that helped you keep your brain, like we said, not turning to jello? I mean, were there certain books, certain authors, anything like that you helped yourself with?
I'm a big nonfiction reader when I do have time to read, and I'm kind of a magazine and kind of article reader versus long books. I have ADHD, and so for me to sit down for a long period of time and read is pretty difficult, which is one of the reasons why my book, the chapters are quite short. I've told people you can read a chapter while you're sitting in the car line to pick up your child because they're really fast, quick reads. But, I was always writing while I was raising my babies, even if it was just a column a month, I always had my mind going, okay, what's the next topic or what's the next story or who are we going to interview? And that was always just nice, having that escape, you know. And even now, you know, like I just was interviewing the former CEO of AT&T this week for an article, and my husband comes home and I'm like, listen to all this stuff I learned today. Like, this guy's just amazing. It's just so fun for me. One of my things I love about life is just connecting with others. And so to be able to sit down and learn these fascinating things and learn from others is just so enjoyable for me. As far as not letting my brain go to mush, I can't answer that one. There have been days where, I threw my phone away in the trash can twice this week because it was in my hand with the trash that I was bringing out while getting in the car with the puppy. So there are huge chunks of my brain that are still pretty mushy at this point, even with them in kinder.
I remember years ago my godmother was talking about how she was coming up to like a parking garage, and so she rolls the window down, reaches out, it's raining, and she's got her kids in the car, and she's trying to get the ticket, and then she ends up almost rolling her head into the window as because she's trying to do everything. I remember that moment of her telling us, and my dad was just in hysterics, but he kind of nodded, and I thought, well, but Dad's always got it together, and I think, oh wait, no, he doesn't. Every parent's been there.
Oh yeah. It's crazy. I have a friend who drove off with the gas pump in her car still and ripped the whole hose off of the.
I only read about those. Wow.
Yeah, and especially in today's world, right? Like you said, we're running to sports practice, or we're here or there. So there's just so many exterior factors pulling us in every which direction that it's quite a challenge to keep your focus these days.
So you've been a writer for a long time. What was what was your favorite thing that you've ever written about, or favorite person?
That's a tough one. I wrote about, in Chicago, I wrote about an organization. It's called Hepzibah House, and it's essentially an orphanage. It's a home for children who have come out of really, really bad situations. And I was part of an organization up there who was doing some philanthropy for them, and it just spoke about the programs they had and just these families in the community that would come in and bring, a whole Thanksgiving dinner for them and loads of Christmas presents. And anytime I get to write about something where people are having an impact in each other's lives like that, it's so rewarding because it just renews your sense that there's good in the world and good in people. So I love covering stuff like that.
Recently there was my son is in 6th grade, and the teacher was nice enough to send us a note saying, okay, we're going to be talking about the Holocaust this week. I was like, thanks for the heads up. And, of course, Monday was the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. So we were sitting here at the table, and I said, what have you learned? And they were talking to us, and all the other kids were at the table, and everyone's kind of talking, and we were talking about all the different things that happened and why. And I said, in all of that awful going on, there were people helping, and there were people risking their lives for other people. There were people, and I was giving him stories, and they're all looking at me like, are you kidding me? And I said, so there's always good somewhere. So it's like you're talking about those stories where people are doing things. They don't have to. And those are wonderful stories. Those are wonderful moments. Have there been times that you've like, man, I'd really like to write about that? Do you have stuff on your wish list for interviews or stories?
Not at this point, nothing specifically in particular. The things I enjoy writing about tend to be things I'm passionate about. So, when I was going through fertility struggles, that was always a topic that I thought I would delve into later in life. But that industry has changed so much even since, I was having my babies. It's a whole different ball game now. But for me, it's ultimately just coming down to telling people stories. I think we all have so much to learn from one another. And, you see people every day posting on social media. Everyone out there is going through their own personal battle, and be kind and this and that. And it's so true. But by telling people's stories, it just makes you appreciate it even more. So I have certain podcasts I listen to just because that next day or after I'm done listening to it, I'm going to be reminded yet again, yes, do we have a roof over our head? Do we have food on our plates? Are we loved?
Right.
We're in good shape over here in the Cuthbert house. It's that connection with others and hearing other people's stories. I think we all have so much to learn from each other.
Oh, for sure. Do you come from a long line of storytellers? I mean, did you have family members that were really good at telling those stories? Is that where your love for writing has come from, or telling the story?
No, it's just straight up being a third born and having to entertain. My mom and dad are both school teachers, and my mom is I would probably deem her an introvert. She's quite quiet, and my dad's hysterical, but he's not a storyteller by any means. He's a math guy. So, it's a personality thing, and it's quite eerie because one of my triplets is me, but a boy. I mean, his level of exaggeration and embellishment in the stories he tells at 6, it's like taking me right back to being on the playground and making up some elaborate themed thing to entertain my friends. So it's just always been who I am. I was a second grader sent to the principal's office for talking too much in class. I just always had that social butterflyness to me, and my friends call me the cruise director because I've always been the one to make sure so-and-so knows somebody and make sure so-and-so is invited to this dinner party so they can meet this other person. I've always been a connector, and I think it just has filtrated into my work because through all the reporting I've done, I'd rather pull my eyelashes out than sit through another school board meeting or city council meeting, but I absolutely love doing feature stories and interviewing and telling people's stories.
Yeah. And so was journalism always on your radar, or was it something that came later in life? I mean, like you were in high school or college?
It was always on my radar. I went to a college specifically because they had a great journalism department, and I originally wanted to go into television and interned with television studios in college. And being a 22-year-old blonde, blue-eyed girl, there's about 500,000 of you that want to go into broadcast news.
Right.
And the pay was like enough to eat ramen and get a studio apartment in Dust Bowl armpit of California. And so I was like, I don't want to be 9 hours away and make pennies. I want to go back down to the Bay Area and be near my family. So I ended up skipping out on the television gig dreams and, going back close to my family in California, and then met my husband quickly after. And, the rest is history. We've been all over the country. So.
Wow. I mean, it's a lot. I don't think when I went back and got my journalism degree, I did an internship at a local TV station. And, yeah, I think a lot of people who go into journalism think, oh, yeah, broadcast journalism. But they don't realize that you might intern there, but you're going to start at someone who's number 175th in the ranking of all of the studios in the United States. So you might start out in Idaho. And
you're going to haul all your own gear and edit all your own stuff. And, it's a hustle, man. And I have friends that have done it, and I'm like, more power to you. But I had, goals and aspirations of a family, and that's hard to do when you're trying to make it in that industry, in your 20s. So, it was a chapter that was exciting for a while, and then I said, weighed the pros and cons, and just the family part was more important to me. So.
Right. Yeah. And same thing. We got pregnant, I got pregnant, and then it was, this isn't going to, this is not quite going to work. But I had a great mentor that said, then you learn something. It doesn't matter whether you decided you were going to do it for sure or not. You learned something while you were here. And that's what's important about it. And just like you probably learned something for every article you write. Like, I did not know that.
Right.
Or,
right.
Has there ever been an assignment you've taken that went really bad? Like maybe the person who you were interviewing or the group or whatever, it was just like you're in it and you're going, oh no, this is not going to work for a story.
Oh, not super duper bad, but I will say, when you're in your early 20s, it's very difficult to be taken seriously. And now that I'm older, even when I get on the phone with some of these, I do the Guy to Know column for San Antonio women. So I'm speaking with like head doctors and head members of the military and stuff here in San Antonio, just really successful professional guys. And now at this point in my life, like you said, I make sure I do my homework. Like I have Wikipedia'd you. I have read every article I can find on you. I have notes and questions ready to go before I'm talking with you, because of those experiences in my 20s. You know, one time we were at the town I used to ride in had a motorcycle rally every year, and the former head of the Hells Angels was there, Sonny Barger. It's a real well-known guy in the motorcycle world. And I swear to God, I was like 22, 23, and I rolled into work thinking they were going to have me go cover like the food booth or whoever's performing at the main stage. And they're like, Christy, Sonny Barger's over there in that tent. Go see if you can get an interview with him. And I'm like, who's Sonny Barger? You know, I no clue who this guy was. And they're like, oh my God, he's like the head of the Hells Angels. You got to go talk to him. Okay, like talk about intimidated, right? I'm like walking over there, like, hi, it's me with the freelance. You know, I'm like, oh my God. And fortunately, he was very sweet, but he was probably like, what is this little girl doing over here right now talking to me? She can't even name 2 different motorcycles, you know? And so instances like that where you're just kind of put on the spot. I had a situation in Kentucky where there was a live shooting going on in a high school, and they told me to go, and I said, nope, you don't pay me enough money to go over there without Kevlar on, so sorry, you know. Situations like that. I got to do some really cool stuff with the military, do like stateside embedding with them. During my time in Kentucky, we were stationed by Fort Campbell, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I think for a reporter, preparation is key. And so sometimes you get into situations where you don't have that time to prep, and that's where you really have to think on your toes and build that rapport with the person you're speaking with so they trust you enough and they're not like rolling their eyes at having to deal with you, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And there are times, I've had a couple in mind that one, I couldn't find a lot of information on him. I was supposed to interview this person that was doing a movie locally, and he was a character actor, and it was the only thing I could really find that was of any significance of the press being covered, because International Movie Database was very new at the time, was his domestic issues with his ex-wife, and I'm like, yeah, let's talk about that. So I was like, oh no. So it was hard to kind of grasp a good foundation, and then of course he wasn't interested really into do the interview either, so that makes it harder. Right. And it's just one of those moments that you're like, I just want to salvage enough to walk out if you're with something. But yeah, you're right. There's times if you don't do your homework, people are just like you're saying, they don't take you seriously, and nor should they.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if there's someone of importance, because they've done a million interviews already, you know. And so you really got to come at them and make them feel comfortable right off the bat so that they want to talk with you.
Right. And there is a bit of grooming, a little bit of an ego stroke there. And I think that's for anybody that is going to be interviewed or you're talking to, is they want to know that you've at least invested enough to know the basics. Right. Because it's not their job to educate you on themselves.
Agreed.
So you've got your kiddos, and so what are some of the things that moms, the little known things are things that you've come up with on how to, like you're saying, to sit back and take the day as it is? And are there little certain ones that you always pull from? Is it like your mom basket of tricks for yourself that you want to share with us?
Yeah, there's things I talk about when I do guest speaking with MOPS groups, and it's really kind of a list. It's, I have a little sign on the rearview mirror in my car. It's just like a little piece of cardstock I stuck up there, and it just says, they're just kids. They're not meant to be perfect. And I think I have to have that visual reminder, because probably almost on an everyday basis, they have me like a pressure cooker at some point. Someone's screaming and fighting on the way home from school pickup, or Lord knows, just there's 4 of them. There's always drama. And I just have to keep that visible reminder of like, yeah, they're 6. They're going to do really stupid stuff in the grocery store. They're going to try to weigh themselves in the produce scale. They're going to knock over a whole display of Febreze. And now that they're getting a little older, I'm not, it's bothering me even more, because I'm like, no, you're 6. Like, this is unacceptable these days. So they are getting more consequences for it, but there's three of them. And so, it's like I tell everybody who likes to be like, my children are perfect. I'm like, try having a play date with 3 kindergarten boys 24 hours a day for the next year of your life. Like they just, they vibe off each other and they amp each other up, and it's chaos. So having that visual reminder to just let it go and not try to hold them to the level of perfection either is important. Like I said earlier, I tell people comparison is the thief of joy. Really kind of limit anything on social media that maybe making you feel less than or making you feel guilted like you're not doing a good enough job. Finding quality versus quantity moments that you can soak up and enjoy, like your root beer story. I tell my boys, I tell them all the time, I'm going to cry on your birthday. I don't want you to get me bigger. And I squeeze their little hands. And that's us making like little muscle memories of their hands at this size. And finding humor, like that's the whole point of the talk I do, is finding moments to enjoy with them. We prank their dad all the time, like whether it's putting a rubber snake out right by the garage where he walks in after work, and we'll stand there and wait in the window and watch. I've taught them how to toilet paper people's houses. I mean, we plan it out with friends, but it's like old school 1980s toilet papering. We roll up with hoodies on, and and they're waiting for us with Nerf guns to attack us. It's an absolute blast. And like you said, those are the things they're going to remember more so than the big trip to Disneyland or whatever it is we're doing. Let's see what else. I wear crazy wigs and masks to the car line pickup, and they find it just absolutely hilarious. Anything you can do to just lighten the mood. If I'm yelling at them, sometimes I'll start yelling in a monster voice. And I have a friend who does it in a really funny high-pitched voice. Anything to just shift the energy really helps, I've found. And I mean, I always tell the moms when I talk, like I feel like I have imposter syndrome being up here at the podium because I still have days where I like completely fly off the handle, like it's unnatural not to. And if anybody out there has a special secret that tells me how I'm supposed to be calm 24/7, please share with the world. But it's just trying to have more good days than bad, I guess. Balance.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. I mean, it's not anything that's ever going to be easy. Motherhood is not supposed to be. And I do.
Right.
We all do it. We all find it's like, oh, well, so-and-so is great with a glue gun, and look what they created for the 100th day of school. I forgot it was the 100th day of school, So, good luck.
Yeah. I went to a
Love
lunch
you.
last week. Yeah, last week, some friends of mine, they started this lunch bunch group where their kids are about to go into elementary, and so they all go to different elementary schools. They're trying to keep the moms together because everyone's friends, and they have these lunch topics. And that week it was picky eaters, and so everybody's giving out their ideas of how to get your kids to not be so picky and food options and this and that. And they were all going on and on about how much their kids love roasted cauliflower, and I just put olive oil and salt and pepper on it, and I roast it up, and they just pop it in their mouth like popcorn. And so I leave the lunch feeling all motivated, like, yeah, I'm going to try this tonight. Oh, God, no. It was like gag city in the kitchen. Like, why did you do this to us? My children felt like hoodwinked. That I tried to eat roasted cauliflower. Like, how dare you, Mom? Like, we're already giving you celery, carrots, and green beans. Isn't that enough? Like, why are you pulling this on us right now, And so it's just, I mean, everyone's family is different. Everyone's culinary experience is different. Like, you just have to do you, and you just have to do the best that you can do, not what the lunch bunch person can do, but what you can do and what your kids can do.
Right. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Christine. I really loved talking to you. And if anybody is interested, she has the wonderful book out, Mom, I Farted in Church, When Type A Mama's Journey to Learning to Laugh and Let Go. And it is out now. You can also follow Christine on Instagram. She's at Christine Cuthbert. And the link will be in the write-up of the show, as well as the buy links. And reach out to her if you've got a fun story, or look for her out and about, because she's doing some presentations. And also she writes for San Antonio Woman Magazine. So you could also look at some of her work there. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And everybody, you keep reading.
This show brought to you by Circle of Seven Productions. www.cosproductions.com. Please be sure to subscribe and welcome to our circle.
The Hollywood Reporter is your ultimate source for awards race news this fall. Go to THR.com to keep up with this award season's expert predictions from executive editor Scott Feinberg, and tune into the Hollywood Reporter's Awards Chatter podcast for exclusive interviews with the biggest names in showbiz. Stay in the loop with daily newsletters providing real-time updates on all the awards action. Subscribe to THR.com for full access to the Hollywood Reporter and never miss a moment of this fall awards season. Visit THR.com today.
Every day when you log into ChumbaCasino.com, the ultimate online social casino, you get a free daily bonus. Imagine if you got daily bonuses in other parts of your life.
I chose French fries over loaded French fries.
I asked Stuart from accounting about his weekend, even though I don't care.
I updated my operating system without having to call tech support.
Collect your free daily bonus at ChumbaCasino.com now. And live the Chumba life. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.